I would just lower those lights and sit there and just drink and think these terrible, terrible thoughts. And it got to the point where I couldn't go to sleep until I passed out.
I'm a former Detroit police officer and rode with the 1%er motorcycle club. During that time, I was involved in a lot of altercations. I had a gun shoved in my face. The trigger was pulled, and I got a plate under my left eye. I'm Manny Vitale, and this is my story. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight, Our War, and we are back here in Connecticut at our second home. And as always, we have just some amazing guests coming on, sharing their stories, and we definitely thank them for that because, when you're dealing with addiction, a lot of times you'll have people that, that stigma, trying to lose that and hide behind it and then talk about it. It's very hard to do. And so for our guests to come on here and share some very painful moments to help others is very commendable. And to all our guests who come on My Fight, Our War, thank you so much for what you do. And we've got a very special guest, Frank Minno.
Correct.
I got it
well
right
done.
that time. Frank, thank you so much for taking time to come on with us.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And to get things started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from?
I'm from Danbury now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you fall in love with a girl from Danbury. You wind up becoming from Danbury. I've been in the tri-state area my whole life. I started out as a musician, worked my way up to a producer, and now I'm in a different part of the music business. I'm in music publishing, which is interesting. Never thought I'd be there.
Wow.
And I've got 2 boys. They're old now, which is crazy.
Time flies.
It does indeed. And I'm lucky that they're still with me, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
With, here we are. Our discussion is about addiction, drugs, and alcohol. And for the industry that you're in, music industry, man, I mean, I know for myself, you think, party.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's there. And so that's something that we're definitely going to touch on here and there for
Absolutely.
the company that you're around. I mean, it's, it just goes to show that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, or what you do, it's there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to hear some of the stories about that.
Sure.
But, when we usually get this kicked off, we like to get just a little background on, the beginning, the earlier years to kind of see, some people, like we were talking before we started, I'll have people that'll come on and their first memories as a kid are mom and dad doing drugs at the table or dad beating mom up and just terrible things. And to them, that's normal. And then this next guest, they've got dad's a doctor, mom's a lawyer, they got a nanny. But fast forward a few years down the road, both these people are at a trap house from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different financial institutes. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So how was life growing up for Frank? How were your younger years?
Pretty great. I mean, I have some, I lost my mom last year, but
sorry.
But I had, 2 great parents. I've got 4 siblings. I'm a twin, so that's a whole different thing.
Yes.
Night and day we are. And, we started out in the Bronx. I didn't really see my dad much because he was just working so hard to keep all these mouths fed. And he was a musician as well and doing a bunch of different things, trying to make things work. And he wound up, being very, very successful in his own right. He was a very good role model that way for buckling down and taking care of business and all that kind of stuff. And later on, that definitely plays a part in my story, but everything, there wasn't anything crazy, there was a lot of love in my house, probably maybe too much love. A lot of, my dad lost his dad really early. So, and now, thinking back now where I've been and now looking back going, he didn't have all the tools. There wasn't a whole lot of I love you and all that kind of stuff until much, much later. And not that I ever felt unloved.
Sure.
But it was one of those things where there was a lot of fear because he lost his dad so young. So a lot of that fear, a lot of that fear came on to at least me. I can't talk about my siblings, but we don't ski because you can get hurt skiing, and we don't do this and we don't do that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember playing rehearsing with a band, and they were much older than me. And then we were going to go play our first gig in a bar, and it's like, well, you can't play in a bar. You're underage. Well, what did you think I was working so hard for? You played underage. Yeah, but that was a different time, and that was, once again, that fear being transferred onto me. And I carried a lot of that into the future.
Wow. I tell you, it sounds like my dad, one of the things, I remember there was something happened, and you did the same thing. And he fired back with, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Damn it. You always get that one. But, I had some guests that actually said something similar to you said about the love in the family. And he goes, it was almost, looking back, he goes, it was almost too much overkill. It was because it actually enabled some of my addiction because there was nothing harsh. There was, no, don't cross this line, because the line kept moving and all that, which happens anyways with addiction. But so the younger years seemed very fine growing up and all that stuff.
Pretty good.
Now, as far as kids go, especially with siblings, you as you get older, you get to around more people, younger, older, whatever it is. When was the first time you were actually introduced to drugs, alcohol?
Well, alcohol is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this always comes, people ask me that, and they're like, once again, it's not so dramatic, but I was a junior camp counselor, and we were at a sleepaway camp, and the older counselors brought beer. And I remember trying this beer, and I thought it was the most disgusting thing in the world. So I'd be like taking a sip of it, and then I'd like pour some out, and then take a sip and pour some out. And, I remember getting a little loopy, but the next day the head counselor was like, man, what was your problem last night? You were dumping out more beer than you were drinking.
You saw,
I was
yeah.
like, oh no.
Busted.
I didn't, when I got to college, once it was freedom, right? So, being in a very sort of constricted growing up in the high school years, and I think I spent more time grounded than I did ungrounded. As soon as my parents left, I bought a pack of cigarettes, and I was a free man. And, there was plenty of booze in college. I went to a music school in Boston, and, there weren't a whole lot of girls there. It was like a lot of guys. So we just sort of hung out and drank, and, it wasn't crazy. But fast forward, and I don't know how much you want me to fast forward, but I married my childhood sweetheart, and we both were young professionals, and we moved into an apartment in Washington Heights. And I just remember her aunt saying, when you come home, there's nothing wrong with having a drink when you come home. Take the edge off, and the day's over and all that kind of stuff. So my ex-wife was a wine person, and then I needed a drink. So, vodka doesn't taste like much, so I'll just drink vodka, I guess. And I drank vodka for 30-something years, right on down.
Just straight vodka?
Well, not at first.
You had to throw a little orange juice in there. So.
Nah, it was literally, first it was tonic water, Kettle One and tonic, 2 limes. That was my drink for about 5 years. And then somebody said, well, tonic water is kind of fattening. And so was Rose's lime juice. So maybe, I switched to seltzer. So it was just, vodka soda. And then later on, soda didn't matter. Didn't really matter that much. But it certainly, I felt like an adult. It was like, here I am with my wife. I've come home from work. She's come home from work. We're having a drink. We're making dinner together. And it was as simple as that. Absolutely as simple as that. When she got pregnant, that's when it sort of hit me like at the time she was sort of the breadwinner. No, she was the breadwinner. She was doing very well in hotels. And I was making records for guys in Italy. And I was, recording voiceovers and all that kind of jazz, trying to work on a music career while working in music, And all of a sudden it was, you got to get a real job, young man. And that was hard. And all of a sudden there was just a little pressure, And as that moved forward, pressure kept building. And I got a real job. And I didn't like it, but I saw my dad do it. He did a whole bunch of jobs that he didn't necessarily want to do, but he had responsibilities, and damn it, he did it. And so damn it, I was going to do it. And that all worked out fine until she decided that she was going to stay home. She was going to stay home with the kid. And then I had to take on the full responsibility of the moneymaker.
So now you had to up your game.
Yeah. And that was hard. That was absolutely hard. And that pressure that we talked about now was really, really starting to be excruciating.
No, you said you were drinking pretty much regularly.
Yeah.
Was she as well?
Yeah. Whether or not she had a problem, I don't care to say.
Sure.
It's not my business.
No.
But and we're separated now, so it's absolutely not my business. But she liked her booze, and none of it was crazy, But and she was a terrific mom, and it was the best thing for our kids that she was home. I don't have any resentment about that. I don't, I'm not mad about it. I don't blame her, But there was pressure to get stuff done, and I had a bunch of jobs in music, and it was all in music, thank God. I mean, thinking about it now, I was like, how did I stay in that business? But I was blessed to stay in that business. I think the job that did it for me was I worked for a music production company, and the boss he had a lot of problems, literally had a lot of problems, and he would yell and scream and throw things. Very talented guy. But it got to the point where I couldn't, it was like flinching all the time and yelling and where's this and where's that? And the funny thing was, it started out as the dream job. I went for a job. I went for an interview as a head of production, which you're this guy who like sort of books everything and takes care of this and that. And then in 2 days, it was, I fired my partner. I want you to be executive producer. I want you to help me build this thing. You're going to be a partner. I had a sports car. They gave me a sports car. And then I finally arrived. After all my hard work, I finally arrived. And I felt that way. And then 3 months, 4 months down the line, it was all BS. We could barely afford the car. We could barely afford this. We owed everybody money. And I had brought some people on, so I had to stay and make sure that they were taken care of. Sure, it sounds great on paper, but man, it was, I had responsibilities at work. I had people I was taking care of at work, people I was taking care of at home, and it was just too much. It just became too much.
So now you got all that pressure, from, like you said, being the sole provider. So you come home, and I'm sure that there wasn't always the most pleasant conversations when it comes to finance and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And then here, sometimes going to work for some people is almost like the release because you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But here in your case, it's just the opposite now. We're turned from that to just more pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, I literally developed a phobia of the train. Because we were living up in Chappaqua at the time or above some antique store. And I remember walking down to the train station and I felt like I was on death row. Like I'm literally going to hell. And I got to hear this and that. And all the fun was out of it. And all the, music is beautiful. And if I'm blessed to have done it I've never had a real job in my entire life. But man, I mean, if I got on the train, I thought, well, I'm going to be sick, or I'm going to have to go to the bathroom, or I'm going to just all of these things. And I didn't know from anxiety. I didn't know from depression. I didn't know from any of that, because growing up, it was like, oh, you don't feel that way. Stop it. Stop it. You're not sad. Stop it. I'll give you something to be sad about.
Just knock it off.
Yeah, knock it off.
Knock it off. I'll give you something to be sad about.
Stop it. I'll give
Yeah. Stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about.
Exactly. Get the wooden spoon.
Oh, been there.
So, it got to, so right down for those from the studio, there was a bar at the end of the street. I was working in Soho, and there was a bar at the end of the street, and I got to know the bartender, and it got to the point where, there was always, I would walk in, my drink would appear, and instead of feeling like, I felt like somebody. I felt like, wow, I'm important, and I didn't feel important at home because of the kids, and I certainly didn't feel important at work because of the yelling and the carrying on and all that stuff. But at that bar, I had arrived,
One of the regulars, just like Cheers.
Norm walking in.
It was Frank.
Yeah, that's it. And, in a way, I would find clients who love to drink. I was getting paid to drink. So I'd go in and they'd put drinks down in front of me. Oh, wow, Frank's important. Look at that. And they know him here. And no matter what job I was at, even prior to that job, I always liked having a place. Always. And I think that, when I was younger and I was just a studio rat, I would hang out with musicians and they had places. So I just wanted that. I just wanted that place to call. I wanted my Cheers, But, I started spending more time in my Cheers than I did at my house. I would come home, and, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. And so I would pat my kids on the head, have a quick bite to eat, kiss the wife on the cheek, and start isolating in the basement.
Yeah, I'm working.
I've had a tough day. You don't know what I've been through. The yelling and the screaming, and then the drag about all of that was, as I got sicker and sicker, I cared about it was so funny because it's ironic, because I cared about my life less and less, and all I did was compare my life to everybody else's. So how come I don't have that car? How come I don't have that job? I work hard. I wasn't working hard. I was too scared to work hard. It was all of this. I wasn't confident. I mean, here I was trying to raise a family and this and that, and it was never good enough. It was never good enough. Now, was anybody saying that? I was saying that because I saw what my dad did and how my dad grew, and all of a sudden he was making good money and doing. When am I going to arrive? When and how come he's got a car like that and I don't? And how come they've got that big house and I've got this little house? Meanwhile, I had it all. I had 2 loving kids and a loving wife and a nice little cute house with a picket fence and dogs in the yard. I just couldn't see it, and that's the heartbreak. That's the heartbreak of what I like to call my first life. My kids didn't know what dad was going to come home. Was it going to be, the dad who was so silly that he got into the bathtub with his fully dressed, or was it going to be the yelling dad, the screaming dad, the impatient dad, It's a wonder that they're still in my life today for some of the things that I did. Yelling at my little son, 3, 4, yelling so loud he just peed his pants, looking at me just peeing his pants. I will never get that out of my brain. I will never, ever get that out of my brain. And, if there was ever a question of me picking up again, all I got to do is think about stuff like that. No. I mean,
it's so amazing when, you look back at things. Now, at the time, and I can't relate to or I can relate because I'll think back on some of my stuff, and it's just like, back then, some of the things I did physically and verbally were terrible. but it didn't bother me one bit. There was no remorse at all in my thoughts or in my heart at all. Now, being sober, and now when I think back about them, the pain, it's just like, the embarrassment and shame that I have.
Yeah.
And I'll have people say, don't go there. No, I want to.
Yeah.
Because this is how I should have felt then. And I'll be damned if I want to feel like that again.
Sure.
So I get you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a 12-step program, and, one of the things is, we shall not regret the past, nor shut the door on it. No, I regret the past. I regret a lot. I wish I hadn't treated my first wife the way that I treated her. She didn't deserve it. My kids, they didn't deserve it. When I was divorced, that comes later. But yeah, it's certainly that part of my life is I don't want to forget it because I blew a life, and I never ever want to put my life in jeopardy because I have a life I never ever believed that I could have today. It's amazing.
It's something, and with something like that, with the drinking that you were talking about, what happened with that job? I mean, you were saying that it was going under, you couldn't pay the bills and all that. What finally happened with that?
I saved the company.
Oh, you did?
I did. And then he offered me a big chunk of money to go and buy a house. And I didn't take it because I thought the company needed the money. And it got to the point where my priorities became crazy. So eventually I left. And I wound up, believe it or not, working for my dad, which was almost harder because expectations.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah. And it got to the point where, once again, pressure and fear.
What's going on with the drinking at this point?
So now I'm drinking as early as I can. So like I'll have a lunch with a client. Then I'll have a drink with a client and maybe dinner with another client. Then I would go home, see whoever I had to see for a second, and then take a bottle downstairs. I had a studio in my house, and it was kind of like this one. And I would just lower those lights and sit there and just drink and think these terrible, terrible thoughts. And it got to the point where I couldn't go to sleep until I passed out. And I knew when I was going to pass out, so I'd crawl up the stairs and I'd find my way to my bed usually and just crash. And the separation was already happening. I just didn't see it. And I don't blame my ex-wife. I don't. I earned a lot of that. And so it's getting to the point now where I have to drink a bottle to go to sleep. And I remember many times trying to quit. I knew I was drinking too much and I'm doing therapy now and I'm trying to find out all of this stuff about me. And my wife at that point was like, you need to get on some antidepressants or something. You need medication. And if you don't do medication, we can't do this anymore. So I went to a doctor that I saw, that was close to me. And it turns out he was one of those guys who was like, what do you want? I don't know what I want. What do I want?
So he's pushing pills.
So he gave me, oh my God, Wellbutrin, gabapentin, and clonazepam. And I drank on all of it. And I was a zombie. I was an absolute zombie. And it was better to have me as a zombie than deal with me,
How is that? Was that better? Well, better for you.
No.
Better for the wife.
It was better for the family.
So they just saw Dad sitting there, basically a big blob of drool, just because there was no yelling, there was no second guessing on which Dad was going to be.
Yep. And then this is where it gets, this is where God comes in. let's see. It was a beautiful June morning. I can't remember the exact date. I know my sobriety date is 6/26/10. So I think that's a Monday or something. I can't remember. But I woke up and the sun was coming through it was like a beautiful morning, and my wife is sitting there and it's like beautiful, and I don't know what happened, but I woke up and I said, I think I may have a drinking problem. Out of the blue.
You actually said it to her?
I said it out loud. I didn't say it. Why would I say that? You know, you can't put that toothpaste back in that tube. And so.
Did she hear you say that?
Oh, she did. And she said, well, if you really think that, you better do something about it. And just because you're quitting drinking doesn't mean I'm going to quit drinking. Okay. So I didn't know what to do because now I couldn't drink because I told her I thought I had a gig in New Jersey. So on the way to the gig, I called two people, my buddy Mark, who was at the time a wiring guy, and my buddy Jim, who was a guitar player. Mark is now a drug and alcohol counselor, and my buddy Jim is dead from alcohol. And they both said the same thing. They said, you better go to a meeting. And I had heard about it before, and I white knuckled it until I got back from the gig, and I went online and I found a meeting that was 3 blocks from my office in the city. So the next thing I know, I'm getting up at 4:30 so I could be in Manhattan by 7. I think it was a 7 o'clock meeting. And I walked in that meeting and I was scared to death. And I remember this guy, Joey, God bless him. He was a gangster, an ex-gangster who had a stroke, and that didn't stop him from drinking. And he was very intimidating looking. And he was like, listen, buddy, why don't you sit down? You're making me nervous. And I sat in this chair that was a little close to him, and I stayed in that chair for 4 years. And every day I went to that meeting. And it wasn't easy, but I learned a lot. And I learned that, oh, I'm not the only one feeling this way. Oh, I'm not the only one who's done that horrible thing. I'm not the only one who's, disappointed people, And, I did everything they told me to do. I did a 90 and 90, and I got a sponsor, and I talked to my sponsor, and all I did was talk. And I talk and I talk and I talk and I talk. And finally he said, you know what? You talk too much. Shut up, listen, and do. And so I just started doing service. And service isn't just making coffee or reading or helping somebody, an old lady across the street. It's just showing up so you can be an example to a guy who's got less time than you. And I didn't understand any of that because I was so selfish. I couldn't understand any of it, and left to my own devices, I'll drink, but I don't need a drink to be an alcoholic. I don't need a drink to have those negative thoughts, to be that uncaring person. Those character defects are in me. And so about 3 weeks into the meetings, I woke up one morning and I heard the kindest voice in my head say, now you've found me. And,
wow. And
that, I don't know whether I was dreaming or whether it was God and I don't care. But I felt like I was on the right track.
It was that same voice that said, I think I have a drinking problem.
Yeah. In hindsight, I can see all of these times that God touched me, but I didn't put it all together. I always believed in God, but I didn't have a relationship with God until I got sober. I believe that 100%. And it all starts to come around because now my story gets interesting. I have to take a sip of this real quick.
No, go right ahead.
I'm not unique in any way, but I will say that my recovery, I didn't have a huge dark bottom. I didn't have, a car crash or I killed somebody, thank God. But right after I got sober, my then wife said, I think that we should separate. Out of the blue. And, okay, all right. And before that, sorry, I get my travesties mixed up. But before that, I'd lost my job. And then
you were working for your dad.
No, that was later.
Okay. Okay.
No, you know what? My dad, our company went under.
Okay.
Just because of technology and I was with old school guys and I'm not blaming them. It was just we weren't fat. We weren't keeping
times.
up.
Yeah.
So so I was unemployed and she wanted to get separated. So I moved in with my parents. And that was the darkest time of my life. Not because of my parents, but because what did I do? What did I do? You messed it up. I remember being in my bedroom packing up my clothes and yelling, "You messed it all up. You messed it all up." And at that point, I went to my parents' house and nobody was there. And it was the loneliest I ever felt in my entire life. Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
That was a bad night.
And you're sober at this point, right?
Yeah. So we've had a bout of unemployment. We've been separated. Then I got another job. And then I lost that job. And then she wanted a divorce. And it was like,
how many more shots can I take?
Exactly. And I'm thinking about it now. I've thought about it. If I had just turned my will over to God like I'm supposed to, maybe I didn't have to go through all these little lessons. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't drinking, but I wasn't sober, And, it was at that point, it was just despair. I wasn't drinking, but I was just, and this is another God thing. So I'm getting my wisdom teeth taken out, right? And I used to have all my equipment in a storage unit in Brewster. And as I'm going under, the TV's on and stuff. My storage unit is on fire. Breaking news. Whatever the storage unit that it was is on fire in Brewster, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I think that's mine.
Wait, so it was actually...
It was actually my...
Oh, I thought you were like hallucinating from...
So I wake up and I'm like, I had the craziest thing. I was dreaming that my place burned down. And my girlfriend then was like, yeah, it did. So I was out of my mind. All of my equipment, all of my drums, all of my stuff that I couldn't fit in my parents' house. That was all I had left from my old life. Oh my God, what? So fast forward a couple of months because it's now condemned. The guy calls me and he's like, listen, you've been really patient and you've been a good dude. You haven't been yelling or screaming. Why don't I'll sneak you in this weekend so you can at least see the damage. And he said, bring your boots. It's awfully wet in there because they had to rip the ceiling off and it's, So I go in and I open up my locker and other than everything being under a thin layer of ash, there's nothing the matter. Everything is fine. And I look up in the corner and there's a bulge of water underneath the insulation. And the guy was like, we need to move this stuff now because that broke in another part of the building, and about 400 gallons of water is behind that. And so we moved everything out. And I knew that day that everything was going to be okay. Because that was God showing me that
all of
everything
your stuff that was in there was safe.
wasn't touched.
No damage, besides dust or whatever.
The locker next door to mine was completely burned out. Completely burned out. But mine was completely safe. And that was a sign for me. And my life changed that day. It absolutely changed that day. And I don't know, all of these signs that God has given me through the last years of my life have been ridiculous. It's been absolutely ridiculous. And I am a big proponent of the 12-step programs. I know a couple of people in a lot of different 12-step programs. It all seems to work. But for me, it's God. God doing for me what I can't do for myself, because left to my own devices, I will make the wrong choice. So I take the tools that I've learned and I apply them in my life. And the next thing you know, I'm doing the right thing. And I'm doing the right thing because I know it's the right thing, not because I want someone to say, wow, he's a good dude. He does the right thing. No, I do it because it's the right thing to do. And the more that I do right, the better my life becomes.
It's simple.
It's simple.
And,
but
and the thing is too, Frank, it's just like, I'm going to do all this stuff because, saying the right thing, playing the game. And as an addict, we manipulate the hell out of it. You can tell. I tell you what, man, did you steal that money out of? No. I can't see. It's because of that you're going to make me drink now, and now I hope you're upset. You're the reason why. By the end of the conversation, I'll have someone give me $20 to go buy a drink. But and then doing the right thing, and actually for the right reason, because we all did the same thing at some point. And that aha moment is something that is better than any high that any drug or alcohol could give us.
And that's now that I have guys that I look after, that's my favorite thing in the world. When the lights come on and they realize what that, for me it was fear and ego. For them it could be, whatever it is. But so it's me. Yes, it's you. That is the best feeling. If I could take somebody if I can help take somebody to that place, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. They say don't give up before the miracles happen. I've seen a lot of people give up before the miracles happen. It's heartbreaking.
And we never know when.
No.
And how many times? I mean, I've been born and raised Catholic, and with my fight or war, I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what political. I don't care about any of that, man. But if you don't have faith in whatever God it is, you're in for a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I'm so blessed, and that feeling is just, so I know what you're talking about, and it's just amazing. And my Mas thing is, it doesn't matter what you want; it's God's will, not yours.
Sure.
And hearing that, it's like, that doesn't make sense. Ask for what you want. Oh, you'll get it, but when it's time, and it's just like, why did I go through all this? Right. And now looking back, it's because I'm sitting here right now with Frank.
100%.
Is why.
And that is such a great point, because I don't know what I did to deserve this life that I have today. But I know that helping other people, doing the right thing, being available, being a good father, all of this, I keep doing that stuff and good things keep happening in my life. I'm not going to stop doing it. Why do you still go to meetings after 15 years? I'm not. You want me to test the universe? I don't think so. God's got me where he wants me. And this is what's happened. And I've found love. I have a job. My kids are still in my life. I'm just going to stop now. Not a chance. Not a chance. And
Did you ever think that you would be grateful for addiction? which sounds. I was on a show, and someone, Manny, what are you grateful for? And I'm rattling off my mom, my faith, my fight. I'm really grateful, man, for addiction. And he's like, "What are you, an idiot?" Well, if it wasn't for all these terrible, we are helping people by sharing terrible stories,
Yeah.
painful stories of what terrible people we were, and people are like. It's just like now when people see Frank that know you just from now forward, not then, they're like, I can't picture you being like that.
Yeah.
I have people tell me, man, you're such a good person. I'm like, oh, if you only would have known.
Right.
And then they hear stories about me with the police and me with the motorcycle club and some of the violence and this, and they're like, oh, no. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just such an honor to be where we're at. And this is why we're here.
And it's, you know, you have your level of stuff. I have my level of stuff. Frank, you never kicked any dogs. You're always a nice guy. Yeah, but you didn't.
Did you ever make your 4-year-old piss?
Yeah, exactly. And that may not sound like a big deal to people, but to
you,
me, it's unbelievably heartbreaking.
When you said that story, I saw your eye. Yeah.
It's hard, you know. You hurt the ones that you love the most.
It's not just a song.
No, it's not. And once again, I never want to be that guy again. You know, I keep doing what I'm doing. I take the tools that I've learned. I pass the tools on, because if I can help somebody not be that guy that I was, I mean, that's what my life has become. I mean, I never would have thought I would ever say that. But I mean, you know, so what's your legacy going to be? Well, I helped a lot of people. I did. I do. And it's a pleasure. It's not always easy. I mean, it's not. But, and you know, I've been hurt. You know, I've wanted it more than they've wanted it. And that you can't do that. Mm-hmm. You can't. You know, I've been manipulated. I've been, you know, wait a minute. Oh, damn it, he got me.
Yeah, it's like, I did this one time. I was like, there's a scene in The Grinch. What is going? Oh my God, I've got feelings. You know, I tell people that are in my life, I'm like, you know, this is new to me. You know,
sure.
Having feelings, compassion, love. I'm like, love, that's just a word. I don't mean it. I've never met. Do you love me? Yeah. No. You know, does that mean you'll stick around and stop bitching? I'll say, I love you. Oh, I love you too. You know, and just learning what it feels like to say something or do something and see pain in someone's eyes. And then also it's like, what the hell is that?
Right.
Holy shit. This is what it feels like. And it sounds silly.
Yeah.
But it's true. You know, I had real quick, as my mom was at a table, we were getting one of those talks, you know, with people that care about us. You're ruining your life. It's like, oh, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And my mom starts crying and starts beating her chest. You're breaking my heart. Here's me. All right, I'll be better. My mom. Fast forward, I'm sober. Years later, same table. I'm looking at her, we're laughing, and I have a screenshot come in front of her crying. And I'm looking at her, and I can hear her voice, what's the matter? And then, you're breaking my heart. And I'm looking, and I lose it. And she's like, what's the matter? I go, I just remembered that in mom fashion, it's okay. No, it's not okay. So I get it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's amazing.
Yeah, man. So, you know, with all the things that that we go through, but you're passing it, you're paying it forward with everything you do. I mean, it's just awesome, man. What do you, for people that are in your position right now, because we talked about how growing up was great. You know, I didn't have all these terrible things, but fast forward, a lot of terrible things happen.
Sure.
You know, what advice do you have for people who are in this, this spiral that they feel that I can't be like Frank, you know?
I wish I had an answer. I wish I could say, well, just simply do this and, put your left shoe on first instead of your right one and then everything will be great. That's not how it works. You have to do work. You have to do the work. I mean, you can't, I know plenty of people who just sit there and feel sorry for themselves because of their circumstances. And I was the self-pity king. I could teach a course in self-pity. But that's not going to help you move on with your life. And that's what this really is all about. You've got to move on. And I couldn't do that alone. I needed people who cared about me. I needed a program, and I needed God. And that was the only way that I could have moved forward. If I just showed up and didn't help anybody else, I would still be spiraling, you know? But I think getting out of my own head and forgetting about me for a while was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I definitely give my first sponsor, Lou, all of that credit.
Is the gangster still around?
No, he passed away.
Oh, man. What was that? You said something about something happened, and I asked if you were sober. You're like, yeah, I was sober, but you weren't sober, or I was sober. God, what was it? You said, because you said you weren't drinking, but you weren't. Damn it, I can't remember what it was now, because it made a lot of sense. You weren't drinking, but you weren't happy, or you weren't. Oh, damn it, I can't remember now. But it was the way
I sort of remember.
Yeah, it was like but you weren't happy with yourself, because it was something about being true to yourself, because you were doing it. Whatever it was, but it just really meant a lot that you could be sober. And just because all of a sudden you're not drinking doesn't mean, oh, I'm instantly happy, my problems are gone. Right. Like you said, put the work in.
Yeah. I mean, they in the program, they have something called the promises. And when am I going to get the cash and prizes? When am I going to get, I haven't had a drink for a year. Where's my gold ship? Where's my pat on the back? That's not what this is about. I don't need a drink to be selfish. That's the stuff that I need to put away. And that's why I continue to do what I'm doing. Because if I stop, all of those character defects are going to come to the surface, and I'm going to feel not confident, and I'm going to feel like I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy. And listen, to this day, I don't understand why I get to have what I have. But your will, not mine, be done. I'm just going to, if I wasn't supposed to be here, I wouldn't be here. I mean, it's hard for me to sort of put into words, but even with all the chaos in my life, I've managed to put it down. I don't carry chaos with me anymore. I used to think that's what you did. When you got married, you sort of lied about where you were going because, the wife and the...
it's a white lie.
White lies are fine. They're fine.
It's a fib.
Who am I hurting?
Yeah, what's the difference if I'm at the gym or if I'm at the bar? I'm still going at the exact same time. Well, kind of. Sort of. Yeah, I mean...
It gets to the point where, I had to live an honest life. You said a minute ago, that I was never me. I think in my earlier life, I was always trying to be who I thought other people wanted me to be. I would say something and then no, don't say that, but it's not terrible. It's not, I am who I am today, and I'm me. I think, you can take me out in public, I'm appropriate, but I am who I am, and I'm the way that I am. There's some people who, well, I was a nice guy. Oh, he's full of shit. There's no one who could ever be that nice. And I don't care. I don't care what you think. My job now, I feel, is to make people comfortable in that room, to make people want to be in that room, to know that there's somebody there who will listen to them, because Lord knows they listen to me. Sitting here crying in a chair, and how come she doesn't love me, and how come, I'm getting fired, and how come all of this other BS, whatever it was. There were people there who said, you're never going to have to feel this way again. You're never going to have to be alone again. You're never going to have to,
It's amazing. That's like with My Fighter War. Join our pack. You'll never be alone.
Right.
Because, we understand. I can never feel the pain that you felt by losing your life with what you had, the things that happened. But I can relate it. I
Sure.
can relate to what you're saying because we've all gone through it. And, it's so for us to be able to do that and share that with other people saying, listen, you're not alone. And that first step, to I have a drinking problem. That first step, I've never done it, to walk into any type of organization for any type of meeting, only because like I told you, when I first started, or when I got out of the hospital, COVID shut the world down. When I was supposed to be seeing all these people for help and recovery, the world was shut down for months. So I'm sitting at home. But that addiction is so evil. These thoughts of you're alone, you're not worth it, that's addiction, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to pound through people all the time. Addiction is only a word. Addiction is not a death sentence. And I love that. It's just like, I'll hear people, oh, addiction is so powerful. It's like, don't say anything positive about addiction.
Right.
Addiction is evil. You know, you're stronger than addiction. You're better than addiction. Spin it around. You're going to kick addiction's ass.
Right. When I walked into my first meeting, people introduced themselves, and I was like, everyone's looking at me, so I'm like, I'm Frank, and I don't know what I am. I don't know.
That was probably one of the honest things that you said.
So we started reading through this book, and it was at the beginning of the I walked in at like the best, most perfect time once again, and they start describing, well, there's this type of alcoholic, and then there's this type of alcoholic, and there's that type of alcoholic, and then there's this type. And I was like, I'm all of those people.
I was just going to say, yes.
I'm all of those people. And so I stopped, and I didn't know etiquette or anything, but I was like, and they were like, yeah. I was like, well, I guess I'm an alcoholic. Thanks a lot. I literally said that, and everyone laughed, and I was like, what are you laughing at? But to say it out loud, I thought, I'm not the Bowery bum. I'm not sleeping on the
in
street.
an alley. Yeah.
That's not what this is. And you know what? You were talking before about, being proud of not necessarily my alcoholism, but the fact that I've made peace with it. And not only have I made peace with it, but it's almost like my superpower. Not the fact that I drink, but the fact that I've overcome.
Yes.
That's, there's a lot of bright people who have addiction. There's a lot. The problem is they're just not smart enough to see who they are, because I know that sounds weird, but I was always a good person at heart, but I just didn't know how to be a person at the end of the day,
I tell you, I've said, like I said, I've never done anything in social media, media or broadcasting. I don't know how to do what I'm doing right now. I'm just winging it, and I've been very fortunate to have people open up and feel comfortable.
Sure.
And I remember I was on a show one time, and they're like, you seem very natural doing this. And I said, well, it's because I'm around this amazing elite fraternity that I'm a part of with addiction. I go, we are freaking heroes, man. I go, we're addicts, man. Yeah. We're here. We're standing tall. We're alive. I go, I'm proud to be part of this elite fraternity. And the guy just looked at me, and he was just like, and then he started using that. He goes, we are not the stigma of the, you say alcoholic or addict, you say it, you're like, they're alcoholics, they're addicts. Damn right. And you know what? I'm alive.
That's right.
I'm part of this amazing fraternity of people in this room,
And it's funny, you said, what did you, I just lost the point.
Uh-oh.
It was,
See, it was just like about the sober and you, same thing.
Yeah.
But it was just the being proud instead of looking in the mirror with disgust, which addiction makes you do. Now I look in the mirror and it's like, I won. You didn't. Yeah.
I was so nauseous coming here because I'm a drummer. I'm behind a drum set, No one,
You're not lead singer.
I'm not lead singer. and you made me feel unbelievably comfortable.
Oh, well,
And I feel like, if we were drinking, we go get a beer right now.
Yeah, we would be the guys sitting at the bar going, "Hey, you believe this bullshit? Hey, yeah, my family's giving me shit about drinking. Mine too. Hey, I'll buy you a round." That would have been us. Now we're sitting here sharing these stories about how amazing it feels to do what you're doing. And it's just such a gift.
Hope is a gift.
Oh.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I was given was hope. You can have a better life. How? Well, just do what I do. Shut up and do what I do. And everything's going to be okay. Now, things aren't how I thought they would be, but that's none of my business. Somebody said once, your life is not any of your business. Okay. I can agree with that.
Okay. Yep.
Light goes on. Your will, not mine, be done. I say a prayer, a quick little prayer before anything. Give me the right words to say, the ears to hear, and your will, not mine, be done. Before every phone call, before every meeting, before every something that I'm anxious about doing, and somehow I wind up doing it. I know there's a God. I know there is, because I couldn't stop drinking. And then one day I went to this really dank room on the east side, and then I never had a drink again.
Yeah, with some gangster saying, "Sit down. You're making me nervous."
Exactly. I mean,
it wasn't some counselor with a degree hanging over his. It was a gangster who's done stuff that I could probably relate to, but who helped change our lives.
And you don't know who that angel's going to be. And I've been blessed to have quite a few, you know. And my closest friends, I only have 3 real friends from my past life. And they're all wonderful humans. But the rest of my friends are people who are like-minded like us, who put a priority in their higher power, who don't pick up, who will make a phone call instead of making a bad decision, who will pause, who will be there in a heartbeat if you need something. I mean, that's you talk about a fraternity.
Oh, there you go. People that just don't get it are the ones who haven't walked in our shoes, but then no one else would. But just like with me, I've heard doctors say to me, "You're here for a reason, man. You should have been dead multiple times." To have doctors, that's why I always say, because of my own personal experience with the doctor saying you're going to be gone, say your goodbyes, and having to say goodbye to my mom and my family, and to be sitting here now, if I didn't believe, I don't deserve this right.
Yeah.
And so there's times now, just like you, I stumble. I get pissed. It's like, what am I not doing? And I get frustrated. But instead of taking it out the way I used to, it's just like in time. Instead of wanting to make things happen, I let them. And I may not agree with it, but it's like, who am I to argue with the guy who brought my kidneys, pancreas, and liver back to life?
Ridiculous.
So,
like, how dare you? I mean, it's just that you told me that my brain almost blew up. I mean, that's outstanding.
Oh, I'm very blessed. Just like with yours, with these little things that I never. If you would have told me the story about, I was laying there and I said, I think I have a drinking problem, or okay. What was the other, when you heard the voice say,
"Now you found me."
Now you found me. If you would have told me that 6 years ago, just having a conversation, just to be a nice conversation, I went, "Oh, nice."
Whack job.
But now when I hear that, it's just like, I get it.
Yeah.
It means a lot. I tear up. I cry more than most of my guests do, because I get it.
You got me going today a couple of times.
But it's just, this is people are like, "Well, why don't you go to therapy now? Why don't you do this now? Why don't you do that now?" I go, I am. Every day I get behind a microphone. I do this every 6 weeks here, but at home I'm very blessed to have a studio. Amazing. I get out of bed and it's my other room is an actual studio just like this. And, well, you know all about that.
Sure.
And I just hit a couple things on a keyboard, and I'm connected to around the world. And we're doing this. In fact, OG's got your stuff. You're more than welcome to come on with me if to share, because this is a story that never ends.
Absolutely
You know,
not.
this isn't a one and done. I tell a lot of my, a lot of my guests and the family members, once you're on this show or part of this, you're part of the family, and our stories don't end. And so we'll give you that information to come on and share more.
Whatever you need.
Because this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Well, I feel the same way. I feel like I've known you like for 10 years. It's
I'm telling
ridiculous.
you, when we were out there talking, just chit-chatting a little bit, and that's why I like to just talk a little bit before the show and all that, because of moments like this. And it really does, it makes me know that there is a reason. When I heard people say you're here for a reason, yeah, bullshit. People say that to people who need to hear it, who are down on their luck. And now, just like, so, Frank, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before we wrap this up, is there anything that you just like to say at all to anybody at this moment, or just anything at all? The mic is yours.
I just think that don't. Well, it's real easy to say don't, right? But there's always hope. There's always hope. You may think that it's the end of the line for you, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what he has in store for you. It, they, she, whatever your higher power is, you don't know. And I've been blessed that it's still unfolding. I never thought that I would be doing this or doing that to help people or to do that. I never thought I'd be sitting here trying to inspire some people. But like you said, if you can just help one person, there's always another way. And it may not be what you think it should be, but it's what's supposed to be.
Yes.
And at some point you've got to let go and believe that you can't do it alone. You can't, whether you need Jesus or Buddha or a tree or a dog or a group of drunks, it's never over until you say it's over.
Exactly. I love that. It's like you will never lose unless you quit or unless you give up. If you give up and you quit, it's over. As long as you don't do those two things, the world is ours.
There's always a possibility. You just have to be able to accept it.
Well, like I said, it's definitely been an absolute honor having you on, man. And I really look for it. I really hope that you stay in contact and we could do some stuff on my studio in Detroit.
Except it's live. That scares me.
Hey, I tell you what, like I said, I've never done anything like this. I've been doing podcasts for a year now, and they're like, man, do you use a script? I'm like, hell no.
This is amazing that you've only been doing this for a year. That's insane.
Yeah, I've been doing guest speaking, and it's just like, what are you going to talk about? I'll let you know when I get up there.
I was wondering, like, should I write stuff down? Like, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? Yeah, and I'm going to walk out here going, I didn't say that, or I didn't say this.
Well, the good thing is we've got your information, and we're going to do that in Detroit, because I'm going to send you a link to your email, and we'll pick a day to have you come on, and we'll just chit chat.
Pleasure.
It's just we'll just keep this war going, and as long as addiction's around, we're here.
Happy to help in any way that I can.
Well, Frank, thank you so much, man, and thank you guys for tuning in with us. And please, man, like Frank said, there's always hope. There's always hope. And remember, addiction's only a word. It's not a death sentence. So until then, keep fighting the good fight.